Okay, let's also get in Mayuresh Joshi, Fund Manager, Angel Broking, to talk about the markets and individual stocks. And Mayuresh, let's just talk about the kind of earnings that have trickled in from the banking space. What have you made of it so far? It's been a fairly stable quarter, safe to say, for HDFC Bank.
Afternoon, Aman. Oh yes, again I think the core parameters that HDFC Bank reported are absolutely in line. And again, the NIM expansion has been extremely surprising. The kind of provisioning that the bank has done, I think it's more counter-cyclical, and again in terms of the RBI guidelines that have got issued. But a very stable loan growth going ahead, considering NIMs expected to stay in a range. The capital raising that they are probably doing through debt. Expectations are pretty high. Valuations probably remain on the higher side. But my own sense is that the bank shall keep on performing well as it has done and lead to an earnings growth of 20%. As far as the other banks are concerned, mixed bag, but largely again the larger private retail sector banks, including IndusInd, Yes Bank, did surprise in terms of how their loan growth trajectory has moved and the management commentary thereof. The blip that we probably saw in terms of Yes Bank's asset quality and the valuations of these banks probably might have a cap in terms of a sharp movement. But the smaller private sector banks is somewhere, I believe, where there is scope in terms of a valuation upside. And again, I think the kind of provisioning that these banks have done, both in terms of providing for assets that have probably got restructured and assets that have probably turned sour. My own sense is that the credit cost reversal should start taking place, and that credit growth starts picking up meaningfully. The earnings should start getting reflected. So Karur Vysya Bank on declines, Federal Bank on declines is something that I'll continue to prefer very, very strongly from the mid-cap private banking space.
What about Sandeep? I mean, now we've had HDFC Bank also come out with numbers. What's your own sense with HDFC Bank? Because we pretty much have been talking about there being a bond sort of assured performance with HDFC Bank, but at 1480, it's still a buy.
I think HDFC Bank's performance was exceptional, I think, on all parameters, and I think we'll also look at aggressive growth from them going into the next year and I think next couple of years, because they have taken a call on the economic cycle and they want to grow aggressively. So if such a large bank can grow so aggressively, then there's no reason for whoever is holding to sell. Incrementally money will keep on flowing into this bank. So I think that's how this bank is. We saw some chinks in the armor for Yes Bank as well as IndusInd Bank in a minor way, but nothing for HDFC Bank. So they stand out clearly.
Okay, an ED Now exclusive is coming your way. We have India's first InvIT listing, and I would want Mayuresh as well as Sandeep both to give us their perspective on this one. IRB is to file its RHP today for the same, and Pooja Sarkar, my colleague, has more details on this piece of story. Can we go across to Pooja right now? Okay, Pooja, this is a big one. Fill us in on what you're hearing.
Indeed, Tanvi, it is a big issue that is coming up. This is the first InvIT, in fact, which is going to come up. The product was introduced in 2015, but we haven't really seen anybody come up and raise capital. So this is the first time, and we do understand that IRB Infrastructure, the Mumbai Bulls road developer, is going to file its RHP in another couple of hours. They're expected to do it after the market hours, around 4:30ish, and they're expecting the final approval from SEBI to come in by Monday. So all in all, IRB is now ready to go out and raise capital. They were looking to raise nearly 4,000 crore in the lower band and 25% fresh issuance, which means the total size will be around 5,375 crore. We do understand from sources, we said it 2 days back, that they have nearly commitment of nearly 5,900 crore with them to go out and raise this capital. They're trying to tap foreign investors, but we also do understand there are some three large mutual fund investors from India whom they're trying to tap in as their anchor investors in their book. And all in all, at this point in time, we do know they're going to file the papers today, and they're looking to come up and do the listing by May 1st week. They could also come up by April 30th, the last week, but more so by May 1st week, we should see the first issuance of nearly 5,375 crore, and it is going to be the largest capital market issuance that would be happening since 2010 in India. Thus, all along, there is a large mega listing that is in its way, and we are going to see it happen in the May 1st week. And today is when they're going to file the papers with the markets regulator. When we reached out to IRB Infra, they declined to comment for the story, but yes, sources do tell us that it's going to be filed today.
Oh yes, indeed, a step that's been much awaited, and it's been many years in the pipeline that IRB Infra has been toiling for the same. India's first InvIT listing. Let's get in your initial thoughts on this, Mayuresh. We understand that they're looking to raise about 5,300 odd crores via the same at the upper band.
So again, Avan, I think if this listing does come through, I think it's a positive trigger for the stock. But even the core dynamics probably are in favor of IRB Infra at this point of time. So if I look at the order book in excess of 12,000 crores, which gives good revenue visibility on the construction side of the business. In terms of the specific equity contribution on the BOT projects, over the next 3 to 4 years, 1,500 to 1,600 crores is what is required, and do that too in a piecemeal manner. So again, the kind of cash flows that these companies is generating from the operating side of the business is sufficient to take care of that part. So the equity IRRs are strong. The management had already indicated that equity IRRs should remain extremely robust going forward as well. And the debt portion of the book that IRB carries, I think slowly and gradually that should start receding and coming down. So if I have to remain constructive, I think I do remain constructive on stocks like IRB and Sadbhav Engineering from the BOT/HAM space.
Alright, that's a view coming in on IRB Infra, the newsmaker of the moment, but let's get some chart checks going as well. Reliance Industries all set to deliver its numbers on Monday. Ahead of that, the stock is looking very perky at 1403. Come in on this, Kunal.
I think it's a good chart to really look at, because the stock has been trading with good momentum, holding on to good supports, time-based consolidation, even price correction have been bought into. Volumes have not dried up. Today is yet another day where even though the stock is sort of leading in terms of many of the large cap names. In fact, in the first half it was one of the few large cap names which probably managed to stage a decent recovery, but I think volumes are also quite interesting and high today. So I think largely the stock should remain on uptrend, and I think buy on dips could be a good strategy for Reliance Industries.
Right. Sandeep, just revisiting the IRB story with you as well, and we'll talk about Reliance too. So both of them tied in one opinion. IRB Infra, this InvIT listing, how are you looking at what it might do for the stock?
I think it's important from the perspective of deleveraging the balance sheet and getting in equity for future projects. So once the fundraising happens, then concerns on future equity availability for the new projects which they have won, that will go on the sidelines. Unfortunately, I think with this news, there is another news that there is some litigation on in the High Court with regards to the extension of the Mumbai-Pune Expressway, and whether that should have been allowed or not. So I think that hearing is scheduled for 25th. So I think amidst all of this, that news flow is also important. So right now, although this is a big positive, but that news flow could also sentimentally impact the stock.
Okay, and a call on Reliance Industries too, again talking 1400 and beyond?
I believe Reliance at this stage is in a fair valuation zone. Very difficult to see any significant upsides from here unless the market itself moves up and so it performs along with the market. The big outperformance cycle seems to be over for now, and that's how people have to look at this stock.
Okay, meantime, today was a very news-heavy day. Among the newsmakers, there was Dalmia Bharat. Let's understand what exactly life after KKR means for the company post that block deal. Vivek's here to give us some insight. Vivek?
Well, that's right. Let me first give you a little bit of history, about the KKR-Dalmia relationship. I remember KKR had actually invested around 500 to 600 crore rupees in one of Dalmia Bharat subsidiaries, which was Dalmia Cements, and this happened as early as 2010. Now, remember in 2016, what actually happened was that Dalmia Bharat actually gave 8.5% stake, almost 75 lakh shares of its parent company, that is itself Dalmia Bharat, and apart from that, it also gave the company around 600 crore rupees. So not only did KKR make a profit of around 100 crore rupees in 6 years in its initial investment, it also got an 8.5% stake in Dalmia Bharat. Now in 2016, when KKR got the stake, the price of a Dalmia Bharat share was around 825 rupees, and today if you're looking at it, the price is almost at 2050 rupees. So if you're looking at the kind of returns that KKR has generated from its Dalmia Bharat investment, it's around 140% in just a little over a year. Now, if you're looking at it, Dalmia Bharat, not only the fundamental triggers for this stock has been very, very good. The company has been on a constant debt reduction spree, and also, the two of its arms, one is OCL India, which the company will very soon be merging with itself, and it will become a single entity listed on the Indian stock exchanges. That entity has been doing very well for the company, generating consistent profits over the last 6 quarters, and also Dalmia Bharat itself, given its presence in the south region, where given the supply-demand mismatch as well as the pricing discipline, has kept the company generating quite a good amount of profits. Now, if you're looking at it, Dalmia Bharat, valuation wise not very cheap, given the fact that it has run up quite a bit. So looking at the EV to EBITDA, trading at around 12.5%, 12.5 times EV to EBITDA, which is in line with its peers, say Shree Cement, even an ACC actually. However, if you're looking at the enterprise value to its ton, it is somewhat at a premium around 160. Most of the peers would be trading at around $140 to a ton. So this is something that needs to be watched out for. However, what our sources are indicating is that in today's block deal, the fact that KKR has stole the stake has actually been picked up even by the promoters themselves. It's not yet verified. We will find out, once the block data comes out on the exchanges, and other ultra HNIs who are still quite bullish on the India construction revival story. And this is one stock that would, definitely be played upon by certain investors.
All right, Vivek. Thanks very much for bringing us that story. This kept Dalmia Bharat also in focus, and remember, institutionally as well, the stock is fancied. So we'll have to see how this exit really influences the performance of Dalmia Bharat in the near term. In today's session, on the back of this piece of story, the stock was down 2%. But what we also want to talk about as a theme that viewers need to focus on over the course of the next few months is really what's driving brokerages. Tanya joins us. Okay, she'll be joining us in a few moments, and we'll actually get in a perspective from Sandeep and Mayuresh also on this matter. The NBFC impact, so to speak, on valuations after Motilal Oswal seeking to reduce some stake in their home financing business is really bringing about a change in perception for brokerages. A lot of these brokerages are diversifying their business models, and if you just break down their valuation, it's not just about their broking business, but it's also the sum of parts of the businesses that they're trying to expand into. That's drawing a lot of interest into these names. So whether you're talking about Motilal Oswal or you're talking about Edelweiss Financial Services, across the board, that's the kind of business model they are working towards building. Can we now go across to Tanya for a quick perspective? Tanya, you've collated the numbers. Take us through how the sum of part valuation works out, which is really changing the perception of looking at these erstwhile broking names as more diversified financing companies.
Yes, Tanvir, erstwhile broking names, you very well said it. If you look at how these businesses are structured, if whether it be Motilal Oswal, whether it be IIFL or Edelweiss as well, they have moved on from the broking business, which now contributes a very small part of their FY19. If you look at the current, FY17 9-month PAT, a very small part of that. Now they have moved on to the other segments. The most, the largest drivers in terms of revenue growth over the past year for all three of these companies has been their NBFC business. For Motilal Oswal, the HFC, Aspire Home Finance. For IIFL as well, its NBFC and its home finance business, IIFL Housing Finance, and for Edelweiss as well, its SME and retail lending business is most important, and after that the ARC, again lender, if you look at it that way. So if I do a deep dive, if you look at Motilal Oswal, in terms of 9-month PAT, currently Aspire contributes the least because it was only constituted last year. However, it is the fastest growing. It grew almost 143% on that sense, and hence it's drawing currently the highest valuations. Remember, housing finance companies on an average are valued at about 2 to 3 times their price to book value. And right now, if you look at it, Aspire Home Finance, if it manages to raise the money that it's looking at with Bain Capital, according to Yatin's story, the valuations will be much higher, and hence Motilal Oswal will command, as a group company as well, double the amount of valuations.
Okay, thanks Tanya. Good piece of research and breaking it down for the three names, Motilal Oswal, India Infoline and Edelweiss, all erstwhile brokerages, now looking at diversifying their business model, getting in a lot of private equity investment, and just completely changing the way the market perceives their business internals and their financial performance. That, of course, will add up and ascribe a new way of valuing the business from here on. Mayuresh, I know you represent a broking firm, but from a standpoint of pure diversification, how are you looking at this strategy?
No, again, it is working for all the players because diversification has basically ensured that the NBFC books wells up. And generally for the NBFC space, where you see housing finance companies, microfinance companies, rural focused finance companies, I think the entire story that does the telling is how they are able to grow their AUM successfully and how they are able to leverage that book. So largely, again, I think it's been successful in most of these cases, and that's been reflected in the prices. But NBFC as a theme selectively should keep on doing well. My own sense is that the earnings momentum that you're probably going to see with increasing advances, specifically on the HFC side of the business, for HFC oriented players, the microfinance players, or even selectively few rural focused players which are into rural financing, rural vehicle financing. My own sense is that you'll see a quantum jump happening on the advances. The yield will improve. The improvement in yields will probably lead to return ratios improving. So yes, I think I remain selective but constructive on the NBFC piece as well.
Take a look at some of those sugar stocks. They're pretty active in today's session as well. The likes of Bajaj, Hindustan, Sri Renuka Sugar, etc. all seem to be fairly active in today's session. Come in then, Siddharth, on any of the stocks that you like within the space and your closing strategies as well.
You're talking about sugar space?
Yes.
No, I'm not tracking sugar stocks at all, so I won't be able to comment on it. But then, I would like to comment, maybe that time my audio was not very clear. HDFC Bank can, do better even from current levels. And I strongly feel that a pair trade can be generated where HDFC Bank can be a long trade by shorting Bank Nifty. Because I believe other private sector banks may not do that well. And there can be, some reject in a lot of portfolios where the weightage of HDFC Bank within private sector banks would increase. That would lead to outperformance of HDFC Bank in coming probably days or weeks. So buy HDFC Bank and short Bank Nifty. That's a pair trade.
Dr. Narayan, let's get in your closing strategy as well.
Looking at Cummins India and the way that it's been moving up, and very nice pattern on intraday charts. The daily charts were a very healthy look, and after a recent reaction again, in line with the intraday charts, it is suggestive of fresh up move likely. So 965, 970 is the price zone that it is in right now. I think in that zone one could look to buy 10 rupees as a stop loss, and BTSC target at about 985.
Kunal, what about your closing strategy?
It would be a buy on Ashok Leyland. I sense that the stock is closing almost at the high point of the day. Good momentum, good volumes, nearing a breakout of the 200 moving average, which is closer to 86.5, 86.25 on spot level. So I think post that you should see a start of a decent uptrend on Ashok Leyland as well. So that would be my buy strategy. Target 90, BTC strategy, keep a stop loss of 84.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for those closing strategies. Let's look at some more buzzers into the last hour of the session. Amant pointed out Reliance Industries and took a quick perspective there on the technicals. Mayuresh, at 1400, are you still recommending a buy on Reliance, or has it run its course, working out the upside that may come by through Rel Jio in the price for now? I mean, of course, there's a lot that's going to happen in the future in terms of unfolding the value there, but for now, do you think all of the upside is in the price?
So again, it's a perspective, and you rightly put it out, Tanveer. If you're looking from a short-term perspective, say 3 to 6 months, possibly I think it's priced to perfection. But again, if one really has an elongated view of more than 2 years, and if one assumes that the telecom business will still report EBIT losses for the better part of revival, on assumptions of building on to its subscriber base and ARPUs being higher than what one really perceives at this point of time, the telecom business should start throwing out EBIT margins in FY19. At the same time, if you look at the core business of what we've been harping about over the past few quarters, the capex cycle has almost got over. So I think the petchem and the refining capex, since it's got over, the return on equity should improve drastically from the current levels. You'll always have these fluctuations quarter on quarter in terms of how the crude movement is, and the sensitivity to crude is very, very high, specifically on the GRM side of the business. But GRMs have been consistently higher, more than $4.5 to Singapore GRM. So Singapore GRM is around $6.4 a barrel at the end of Q4. If one really assumes a premium of around 4 or 4.5, Reliance should post GRMs between 10.5 and 11. On the petchem side of the business, again, realizations of the end products have been extremely strong. The polyester and petrochemical spreads have improved, with the end product realizations improving, and that should have a say on a year-on-year basis with the petchem margins improving. So largely, again, I think from a short-term perspective, price to perfection. But if telecom surprises over the next few quarters, and as core capex has got over and working capital probably is over in terms of conversion to fixed assets from WIP on the core business, the ROE should improve from the 11% that we have been witnessing for the past few quarters, and that should improve drastically. So yes, I remain positive, but from a near-term perspective, probably price to perfection.
Okay, before we start wrapping up, 1 minute to go, Dr. Narayan, very quickly, Avan spoke about sugar, and there's also some excitement in hotel stocks, actually selectively so in Hotel Leela. So take your pick as the last 1 minute call you may want to make.
Well, I think in hotel space, it's a little too varied. I really have no view on Hotel Leela. But then I would go and pick something like Indian Hotel if I have to play this over a long term. Or I would pick Asian Hotel West or Asian Hotel North. These are different mid-cap, small-cap stocks which are traded, and those charts are looking fairly decent. I think it's not an area that I would want to really put money into, but then some of the stocks are doing pretty well. For example, Taj GVK as a chart also looks pretty decent.
Okay, gentlemen, let's start wrapping up the market. We are looking at the index closing at 91.22. It's a good close for the Nifty. I mean, as we've been telling our viewers every single day, the market is in consolidation mode. It's still biding its time. It's seeking direction. Technically, we have been in that zone of between 9100 to 9200. At one point in time, of course, the upper end seemed like more like 9250. On the futures side, we've been highlighting the fact that there's been an aggressive call writing build up at around the 9200 mark, 9100 level, and that just puts kind of a ceiling to the market's upside from here. Whether we grind lower from here in the coming week, go below 9100 remains to be seen, but the market seems cautious, and at these levels is really looking for a breakout either upwards or downwards. But 9000, 9100, again, I reiterate, these are very comfortable zones after the stupendous rally that the markets have witnessed over the last 3 months, and that needs to be the context of any sort of move for the markets from here on, especially on to the downside. We are looking at HDFC Bank being the top gainer, great earnings, good performance, net interest income being above expectations, profits being in line, good number. Bharti Infratel follows next. Reliance Industries is also zoomed up in the session, so 2.5% higher there. NTPC, Tech Mahindra holding out in trade. Among losers, you have a Sun Pharma, which is a bit weak. The entire financial space, ITC's lost around about 1.5%. This was after news coming in, source-based information suggesting that the government would ask LIC to reduce its stake in listed entities below 15%. And so ITC, Corporation Bank, those are some of the entities where the trimming of stake would happen. Cipla, Power Grid, Lupin, Maruti Suzuki are all in correction mode, and you would just simply qualify them as corrective trades in the session. For the broader markets, there's a lot of stock-specific action to report. Avan.
Yeah, it's just buzzing away in terms of stock-specific moves, but in terms of the index, a very lackluster close, and definitely come off quite significantly from the high point of the day. Let's keep it with some of those interesting movers. Yes, sugar, no doubt, has sweetened very smartly, and we're getting in some strategies as well on the sugar pocket. Bajaj Hindustan has had a pretty strong run. You have a Sri Renuka Sugar, Triveni, all of them have done well. It's been a very volatile week for Hotel Leela, and today it's a very strong move on the upside, 15% higher on that stock. Take a look at Mercator as well as SCI, so seeing some traction in some of those shipping names as well. You've got other individual names like a South Indian Bank that hold out, Noida Toll, DLF, Religare, Minda Industries, which has been a smart mover, and Radico Khaitan, by the way, has had a pretty fabulous week. Motilal Oswal is a newsmaker of the day, and it goes home 3.5% higher in today's session, shutting sharp at that level of about 831. There have been some other interesting movers from the broader end of the market as well. The likes of a Mastech, which put out a pretty solid set of numbers, and I think it's a double-digit gain almost. Okay, 8.5% by the time we shut shop. HDIL2, it launched the Nest in Mulund, and that stock gets a big thumbs up. And you had Minda Industries on account of the QIP being oversubscribed. A really good reaction coming in on the stock price. Something like a Max Financial post that block deal, 1.3 crore shares in 2 blocks. That really went down well with the stock. And you also had a Dalmia Bharat, which had the big block deal, and we gave you the insight of what life after KKR means, 2% down on that stock. This is some of the newsmakers. On the downside, just gonna point out a handful. Jyoti Structures, double-digit cuts, but apart from that, it's limited to about 3% or so at the maximum. Flexitough in the red. Hindustan Zinc posted its earnings, but despite it being a pretty strong quarter, you've got Max Financial, as we flagged off, something like Mangalore Chemicals, TTK Prestige, Ramco Industries, Jagran, Gujarat Pipavav, as well as Bank of Baroda and HSIL, which go home in the red. So all in all, it's been a listless close, but a fairly encouraging week. Next week, of course, is going to be fairly crucial, as there's going to be loads of earnings as well as expiry. So let's get in some views from our technical guests and their opinion on the market close. Dr. Narayan, would just like to get in your thoughts as to what direction you see us headed and where you would perhaps, hazard a guess on expiry as well.
Well, I would continue to retain my bullish bias because the 9100 level seems to be, continually defended. We saw earlier an attack being launched on that a few days ago, well supported by the bulls reappearing with their coffers out there. Today we saw a pretty sharp drop which came out of nowhere after a better start. And even then, as we hit down to the 9090 levels or thereabouts on the Nifty futures, I think buyers were back. Now, whether it was, the day being saved by Reliance or HDFC Bank, that is largely irrelevant because there will always be something on the other to save the day if the intent is there. And that is clearly the message which the market is sending out, that the intent is to keep the trend aloft and keep it going higher and await some positive feeds to take the market even higher. We saw what happened to the prices of HDFC Bank when the details of the results were unraveled, and I think that stock is pushed to a new high. I think if we have a slew of good results, then this is a market just waiting to go up, and it would take considerable amount to knock it down because the flow of liquidity remains very, very consistent, and all these are reflecting on very positive patterns in stock charts as well as across the board in sectors as well as on the main indices.
Okay, I'll just come to Siddharth and Kunal in a second. Mayuresh, what would be your investment ideas? What is it that that is top of your recommendation list?
So from the mid-cap space, Tanveer, VIP Industries is something that I'm liking. Now there are 2-3 reasons for this. If you look at the overall industry size, it's close to 6,500 crores. 55 to 60% of this industry is unorganized. So as GST starts getting implemented, that unorganized pie moves to the organized players like a VIP Industries, who's got a 50% market share. Second, if you look at their core business model, it's an asset-light model. It sources most of its stuff from China, and there's been a very, very consistent trend in terms of our currency against the Chinese yuan. So that is going to be extremely supportive, and that is clearly getting reflected in how they are managing their inventory and their receivables book, and that has led to a very low debt equity on their books. Third, again, I think if you look at the commodity cycle, and if one really expects crude to move in a tight range, my own sense is that polypropylene, which is a key raw material for baggage industry as a whole and for hard luggage in general, I think that should have a sufficient amount of respite for VIP Industries. The VIP Industries has significant amount of soft luggage exposure. The asset-light model probably aids and helps and abets it in that sense. So we are forecasting a very strong earnings growth, 12% on the top line, 18% on the bottom line, dividend yield in excess of 1.15%. So that augurs well for a stock like VIP in all these conditions put together over the next 4 to 6 quarters. So I remain extremely positive and bullish on VIP Industries with a 15-month time horizon.
Mayuresh, let you go on that note. Thanks very much for sharing with us your thoughts on the markets as well as giving us some of your top recommendations. Let's get in a call then on the Nifty Bank, which has been a bit choppy this week. Kunal, a recommendation here and any stocks that you'd point out?
Yeah, I think we've been discussing Bank Nifty start of the day as well. That the index is trading in an uptrend, and from February there is a rising channel pattern getting formed for Bank Nifty. It's been taking multiple supports around the channel, so there have been almost 3 or 4 attempts from the February charts for Bank Nifty spot levels that it's been taking supports around this channel. Currently the lower end of this band is closer to 21,300, 340 on spot levels, and for the last 2 days Bank Nifty has been sort of taking supports very close to those points. So I'm anticipating that this channel should probably hold for the next couple of trading sessions as well, and especially looking at the expiry as well. I would believe that the index may see some bit of recovery. So keeping those parameters into mind, I had recommended a buy on Bank Nifty in the morning, especially towards those key support levels with a target of 21,900, stop loss at 21,200.
Thanks, Kunal, for that. Siddharth, your own perspective on how to approach trade in the coming week?
Well, I would shy away from trading in index apart from the strategy which I mentioned, or except from the strategy which I mentioned, that long HDFC Bank, short Bank Nifty. I am not seeing any significant upside happening in index in remaining 4 trading sessions. 9200 call today added huge amount of open interest, and I really need to get into kind of things that what exactly stronger hands have done. I guess it's more of selling, because 4 days to left, 4 days left for the expiry. You were getting 18 to 22 rupees premium. Quite possible stronger hands would have sold it, but still how IVs have panned out, what's FIS data in that index option, we need to see that. Liquidity is not coming by, and I don't think so this market has any trigger or is in any hurry of going past 9,200 immediately. So stay away from index, and stock specific you have a lot of trades within Bank Nifty. You have HDFC Bank doing great, which is keeping Bank Nifty flat. You have Axis and ICICI Bank looking weak. Other stocks, other sector also, you have some mixed trend. Metal is a space which you can trade with negative bias. L&T, I concur with Kunal that that stock can go higher from current levels also. So I think it's more stock specific, index not going anywhere.
Take a break. Right. Gentlemen, thanks very much for taking out the time to speak with us today. Really appreciate your views and your insights as always. We'll head into a break right now. When we come back, I'll get you some post-market analysis, earnings preview as well. Reliance Industries, ACC numbers are going to come out any moment now. And then a big voice in the Amul management. That's an ED Now exclusive coming our way.